Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm Leola Tillman. I am a lifestyle consultant for GNLD International. It is a nutritional supplementation company. And this morning, as Sister Denise was talking, I was thinking about what she was saying about how we begin our day. And you know, if you look at the word break fast, it means that you're going to break the fast because your body has been in a mode of fasting all night. So when you get up, the first meal of the day sets your blood sugar level. So it's almost like you're starting a company. You're waking your body up. So the first thing you put in your body is going to be very important. So we're going to talk about that, as well as what we call the insulin trap and the glycemic roller coaster. Okay, nutrition and lifestyle choices affect 7 to 10 leading causes of death. We already heard Dr. Rivers talk about heart disease and some cancer, stroke. Diabetes is our focus, and cirrhosis. So we're just highlighting the lifestyle choices that cause these type of diseases. Next slide. Okay, and we're going to direct your attention to our food pyramid. You can go to mypyramid.gov so that you can look at the nutritional food pyramid that we're supposed to have. Every day when you eat, you're supposed to have a balance of carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and steroids, vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. And a lot of people don't know what foods contain those particular elements, but the food pyramid will help you to understand what you should have in your diet on a daily basis. So if you want to write down mypyramid.gov, it's going to give you a good directory for your food pyramid. Next slide. Okay, now we're going to talk about the spikes that the insulin causes, what happens when you eat. When we looked at the first part of the morning, Emerson had 6 o'clock. But generally, most people don't eat that early unless they have, you know, a schedule that demands that they eat that early. So we're just going to go with this one right here. And what happens is that zone, that control zone, is affected by what time you eat. And I always tell people your body is merely a biological clock. And it's set when you're at birth. So it's a good example with the kids that we have here today. When they were babies, you know, babies ate every 4 hours, you know, sometimes 2 hours when they're smaller. Because, you know, if your body is scheduled out, and as you eat, you eliminate and you lose all of your, you know, sources that you put in, you lose them. So I like for you to remember every 4 hours as you get older, because your stomach is going to empty itself every 4 hours. So that's why if you eat at 8 o'clock, typically by 12 you're going to be hungry again, and you should plug in some little small meals in between those intervals of 8 and 12, because your body being a biological clock, if you eat the proper diet and if you eat what you're supposed to eat at 8 a.m., you're going to stabilize your blood sugar levels until that 12 o'clock hour. But what happens is we go dumping things in our bodies that either is going to cause it to go too high or go down way too low, or we don't have enough in our system to stabilize those blood sugar levels. So what happens is whenever a high glycemic response event occurs, the blood sugar levels exceed the control zone. So that's what we're talking about there. And the control zone is monitored by the body's biochemical guard post. When blood glucose levels exceed the upper limits of this zone, the body responds again by secreting that insulin. And then frequently this causes the glycemic roller coaster as the blood sugar levels drop and go up and down and up and down. You notice sometimes you get up early in the morning and you feel really sick. If you don't get something to eat right quick, you feel really sluggish. Well, that's your blood sugar level being too low. If you eat the right thing, it'll bring it right to the control zone where it needs to be. You eat the wrong thing and too much sugar is in the body, it's too high. So therefore, you have that up and down and up and down and up and down. So Sister Denise had a great example of some of the things you can't eat that will keep you in that control zone. You have carbohydrates from two sources, simple and complex carbohydrates. If you eat the simple carbohydrates, those are the ones that give you quick energy, and it's going to stabilize your sugar levels. If you do the complex carbohydrates from your real good starches, then it's going to sustain you for a longer period of time. So that's very important. Next slide, please. And here we have the insulin trap. As the insulin secretions cause glucose to be cleared from the body, as Emerson talked about earlier, the body must have a place to store it. It can't just leave glucose lying around somewhere. It must do something with it. It's left with no choice but to convert it to fat and store it. And glucose is stored in fat, muscle, and tissue. So what happens is, if you think about it, I always think about when you eat your carbohydrate, it's going to make a glucose, okay? If it's the right kind of glucose, it's going to produce energy, okay? If it's not, then your body has to produce insulin from the pancreas to shoot it out of the body and get it out really fast. One thing that I love about the body, the way God created it, it has so much respect for the other organs. It is not going to burn fat and store it at the same time. It's going to do one or the other. So whenever you think about what you eat, you have to think about the mechanism and then respect your body. Are you helping that body to do what it's naturally supposed to do, you know, or are you controlling that body and causing it to have to go into a storage mode? And that's going to bring us to a point where we're going to bring Darryl up, where he's going to talk about the fat, because your body is going to go into a starvation mode, as Sister Denise was talking about earlier. And it's going to try to use everything that it already has stored, because it doesn't know when you're going to feed it. Or if you do feed it, if it's going to be the right thing. So if the body is always struggling, trying to do what it was created to do, which is sustain life, and sustain life as the way that it was intended. So eating very properly is very, very important. We have to be meticulous about it. And I just have to park right here to talk about the fact that temple maintenance is you knowing what to do with your body, when to do it, so that you can continue to promote and sustain life the way that it was intended. So they have one more slide. Okay, causes of poor health is no single factor. Many ideas, more fast food, foods plentiful everywhere, more fat intake, larger portions and less activity, less fruits and vegetables in the diet. One more slide, okay. We have so many things that we need to do. If you have diabetes, you need to eat regular meals. Again, that's talking about your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you need to plug in small meals in the middle of your day. And I always think about when they offered up in the temple, they had the morning sacrifice, the noonday sacrifice, and they had the evening sacrifice. So whenever you do that, you're doing your temple maintenance there, but it's careful how you have to offer up, you know, your foods in your temple every day. So you have to eat regular meals, many fruits and vegetables, more so than your protein, which is your meats and whatnot. We know you need them, but they should be your smaller portions, and you should have more fruits and vegetables. And then you need to exercise. You need to make sure that you move around, that you're not stagnant in your movement. Aerobic activity lowers the glucose levels. We heard Dr. Rivers talk about that. I think it was him that talked about that a little earlier, and Emerson talked about it as well. Strength training improves your body's response to insulin as well. So I know we got some people in the room that are aerobics exercise trainers that are in the room, and they're going to be talking to us about that as well. And at this time, we're going to just introduce Darryl Smith, who is a personal trainer, and he's going to share with you a little bit more that we was talking about, that starvation mode and how the fat, how it plays its part in our diabetes workshop. Yeah.